Midnight's coming, but what if I told you that the Burning Legion are massing on 100,000 worlds preparing to invade Azeroth? What if I told you that Draenei exiles from across the Great Dark have actually been found, and that the expansion's final zone has got Storm in the name and will even go there and fight a Great Devourer? You see, you could think I'm talking about the Burning Crusade in so many ways, but I'm not talking about Netherstorm. I'm talking about Voidstorm, and I'm talking about Midnight. Because I think if there's one thing this saga is doing well enough, it's trying to wrap up our earliest unfinished business and set things up for the future. I mean, think about it. The War Within continued Vanilla's Titan discoveries. The last Titan is bringing us back to Northrend, just like Wrath of the Lich King. And in the middle, we've got Midnight. It's almost no surprise then that this expansion is finishing what the Burning Crusade started. They certainly won't be big in 12.0, but the Legion are back. We've actually found Draenei who are turning away from the light, and a decades-long threat of the Void is finally here. So, strap in, because today we're about to blast off into the Great Dark Beyond, and you are going to learn loads of lore that you haven't actually heard before, because some of it is from the novel Blood Ties. And in Blood Ties, it's pretty clear Blizzard are setting up where they want some of their story to go. Here's the thing I've noticed, a lot of people who need a website don't have one, or they have one that doesn't look great. And it's often not because people can't afford it. It's because they just get overwhelmed halfway through building it and quit. But today's sponsor, Squarespace, fixes the problem entirely. Their new blueprint system walks you through building your own template. It asks you what pages you need, suggests fonts that actually work together, and it gives you matching color palettes that fit your aesthetic. So you're not just starting from a blank canvas hoping for the best. You're guided by 20 years of design experience that have been baked into that tool. And it then scales with you. Do you need native video hosting? Not embeds, actual native video with a proper player. It's all there in Squarespace, designed to work seamlessly together. And it means that whenever customers hit your site, it looks professional. And when they buy something from you, Squarespace Payments handles it all cleanly. So, you can build your site for free at squarespace.com/bellulargaming. And then when you're ready to go live, use code BellularGaming and that'll get you 10% off your first purchase of a site or domain. This may be a shocker, but the Legion is back, and better still for them at least, it turns out they never really went away. Now this sounds like wild speculation, but it's not. I have for you a direct quote. In the novel Blood Ties, an Illidari called Lyanna Darksorrow and Illyria Windrunner are interrogating a demon called Variskar. Illyria claims, quite confidently, that the Legion is broken. You and I would surely think that, I mean, the end of the Legion expansion. But Variskar smiles through the torture and tells them this. The Legion may have lost its leaders, but the Grand Army of the Light has lost its purpose. While the Lightforged lick their wounds on your pitiful planet, 100,000 Legion worlds rally our forces. Did you really think you could hide forever? You've led us right to... But before she can finish, Illyria and our Illidari decide to kill her. But the rest of the book's narrative does tell us what their last word was supposed to be. And that word is, of course, Azeroth. And that's because the Legion once again are looking for our planet, and with their connection to the homeworld broken, they can't get a portal open. Now, that may all seem a bit weird, but let me explain it to you. You see, the reason why the Legion didn't constantly and just all the time invade Azeroth was because it was incredibly difficult to find Azeroth. Now, the reason why is that the Titans put a shroud over the planet, and it turns out, as a certain book says, space is big. Very big. That's why, as an example, in Warcraft 3, Kel'Thuzad needed to use the Book of Medivh to summon Archimonde. It's why Gul'dan had to open portals in the Tomb of Sargeras for the 4th invasion. That's the invasion that we fought in the Legion expansion. Because basically, without a direct link, without that portal, they're sort of flying blind. So, what all of this means then is that they don't have some portal to immediately take them to Azeroth. But they are on the hunt for our planet, and it sure seems the demon Illyria was interrogating basically knows roughly where Azeroth is. So that leaves us with two huge questions. How close are they to finding Azeroth, and who will lead the invasion? Did we not lock up Sargeras? And of course, many of us think Sargeras will be back in The Last Titan. Turns out today, we're going to have pretty satisfying answers to both of those questions. Here's where our story began. In the Blood Ties novel, we're following Arator as he seeks a promotion within the Knights of the Silver Hand. What better way to earn that than to take down a Legion plot? So what he does is he goes on an adventure with Tyrallion and Illyria, so spend some time with the parents, going through Suramar, where they find that Fel Soul Hold is actually infested with demons. When he investigates, he discovers an Eridar named Sarthar, who is tinkering with some leftover Legion tech, in particular a soul engine. And what a soul engine does is simple enough. It eats souls and spits out power. It's one of these things. But Sarthar is elusive, and this forces Arator on a cosmos-spanning journey trying to hunt the bastard down. He travels to Outland, tracks down Varskar, and learns that the remnants of the Legion forces have actually spread across 1,000 worlds. He brings this news to the leader of the Blood Elves, Lorthamar, who actually agrees, thinking that a Legion invasion is on the horizon. Now, I'm fairly sure you might be thinking to yourself right now, the Legion returning? Surely that's complete nonsense. Surely Blizzard are just pulling this out of their ass because they need something to happen in the game. We dealt with them in the Legion expansion. It's not really like that though. So what we did in Legion was we decapitated their crusade. We took out their leadership, right? Sargeras ends up imprisoned, Archimonde and Kil'jaeden are both gone. But obviously the Legion spanned thousands of worlds. It had millions of demons. They were all just out there. It's not like we then led some grand crusade to purge the whole cosmos of demons. That didn't happen. It's always been left that the demons just don't have their old leader. And of course, the idea of the demons having a big leader is kind of funny, and a part of the point of the Burning Legion, and what makes them truly a great threat, is that Sargeras, this big, ordered being, one of the Titans, was basically able to whip them into shape and use them in pursuit of his goal. He is currently out of the picture, but the demons are still there, and they're just waiting for someone strong enough to somehow unite them, or at least get them all going in a similar direction. And that is Sarthar's gambit. He led Illyria to slay Varskar, specifically because Varskar was a rival for leadership. And in the end, it's revealed that he intended to use the Fel Soul Engine to make that connection to 100,000 other worlds and kick off another invasion. So it is a high-stakes plot, and you can find out how this plot specifically wraps up by going and reading the novel. But the big news here for today's video is it means the Legion are back, they're looking for Azeroth, which is hardly a surprise, and they're currently having a bit of a civil war to decide who is going to be leading them. Or, at the very least, these two demons are fighting. Big picture, imagine chaos, imagine power struggles across all those worlds. I personally think that the Legion have probably split up into little factions, all with their own warlords, basically vying for power. And that begs the question, with all that chaos going on, who could actually step up? You may think it could be the likes of Sire Denathrius, but, well, I don't think it is. Let's talk about the big man, Sargeras. So, since Sargeras was taken by the Titans, we've only heard tiny wee whispers of the Legion. But the whispers have been real consistent. So during Dragonflight, right, the Nathrezim Lord Banehollow attempted to lure warlocks to the Darkmoon Fair so that he could sacrifice them for more personal power. It was a rad little story that they put into the game. Another Nathrezim called Lord Helnerath also set himself up as a demon lord within Felwood's Shadowhold. But that wasn't the only story. Arzal Kal led many repentant Manori Eridar out of the Legion's ranks, but some remained faithful to the Fel, like this one, Saranus, who recently rallied Blood Mist Isle satyrs back to the cause. So what this means is we've already seen multiple demonic incursions. Some of them may have been working to a larger goal, others may just have been personal power. But now what we've heard in the power struggle between the two demons that are really the focus of the Blood Ties book, or at least the focus of our character's quest, well, we now see that they're actually trying to make something happen and perhaps use the fact there are demons spread across 100,000 worlds to make something happen in Azeroth. And what's worse is that Varskar told us that the Army of the Light was, and I quote, licking its wounds on Azeroth. Basically, that they are too distracted to truly challenge the Legion's return. And I want you to think about that, because whenever the Midnight expansion launches, whether they like it or not, the Army of the Light is being teleported en masse to Silvermoon. We see it in the cinematic. The Army of the Light will be busy facing down the Void, facing down xal'atath, and that means the Legion will be a bit more free to organize. And that's where we start having some real big thoughts. So who's going to step into this perfect storm and lead a reborn Legion? Already in this video, it's clear the Legion is fractured but rebuilding. So who gets to lead it? Well, many have risen. There's the likes of Sarathar and Variskar that we've talked about in this video, but none have really shown the strength or the brutality needed to take the crown to actually lead the demons. If some minor demon is going to make a meteoric rise to the top, then, well, they probably haven't been introduced yet. So, at least for now, I think minor players are out. And that means we should look at previous Legion commanders. First, let's talk about the big obvious ones. Archimonde is dead. He is dead and gone. Dead. Now, I have to clarify that because usually, right, in the Warcraft rules, if a demon is killed, they actually return to the Nether, essentially from whence they came, and they eventually regenerate. But if you kill a demon in the Nether, well, that demon would be completely dead. Now, you may be thinking, hang on, did we not do something about demons resurrecting at the end of the Legion expansion? Yes, you would be correct to say that. We absolutely did. Basically, Sargeras and all of his friends were using Argus basically as a massive, big, sort of soul battery. And that was accelerating the regeneration process of the demons. That's what made the Legion so very dangerous. Obviously, we turned that off. We destroyed all of that stuff in the Legion expansion. But that doesn't mean demons don't exist, and it doesn't mean that they'll no longer regenerate. They just won't regenerate anywhere near as quickly. Of course, in the case of Archimonde, well, the final phase of his fight took place in the Twisting Nether. That's where we killed him, so that guy is completely dead. As is another one, Kil'jaeden. Now, you could argue that if you do a big cinematic analysis, that we killed Kil'jaeden after his ship finished transiting the Nether, meaning we just killed him in space, and he could actually return. But I think that's actually countered by some lore. The lore states that Argus was so ravaged by the Fel that it kind of now existed within the Nether. That may all sound like a bunch of cosmic magic-y bollocks, but just imagine so much Fel energy was going around the place that it just kind of broke reality. So based on that bit of lore, we killed him in the Nether and he's absolutely dead. You could make the argument that maybe that lore doesn't apply to the space around Argus. If so, then sure, maybe Kil'jaeden could come back. Maybe it was some big gigabrain thing. That would certainly match his title of Deceiver. But honestly, I don't really think people would buy it. Now, there's another figure, one I think some people would buy, one I think a lot of people are quite literally gagging for, and it is our friend, Sire Denathrius. So, in the Shadowlands, we discovered that Sire Denathrius was the master and creator of the Nathrezim, also known as the Dreadlords. They had served as the Legion's spies and assassins, and it basically seemed that, in reality, they were serving Big Daddy D. Or at least that's the case for many of the ones that we've met along the way. You could then say, who would be better placed for an internal Legion coup than someone like Sire Denathrius? Well, he could lead the Legion, sure, but I think that with the ongoing effort to fold Shadowlands back into recognizable Warcraft, which basically means recognizable Warcraft takes precedence and Shadowlands makes sense within its context, rather than the other way around, which is what they did in Shadowlands, I think that just means it would be a hard sell to parachute Denathrius in to lead one of the most fundamental organizations in Warcraft lore. That is a meta decision. It's one around how they want to build their secondary world, but it's one that I would consider to be smart, and I imagine that's the way they'll take things. And this leaves only one major candidate for leadership. And really, it should have been obvious from the beginning, because with the return of the Titans in The Last Titan, we're almost guaranteed to see the true Lord of the Legion return. And that's because he is a Titan. Obviously, I'm talking about Sargeras. Think about it this way. Is it just a coincidence that we're hearing about the Legion's return during an arc that could, and probably will, bring the character of Sargeras back? I don't think that's a coincidence. So here's the lore on it. In The War Within, it was made very clear to us that the Titans aren't really what their propaganda machine made them out to be. They're rather more indifferent architects and engineers who could have easily just seen us as failed tools, ready to be thrown away and wiped out. And that's not a new thing in the lore. We literally saw that in the Algalon encounter in Wrath of the Lich King in 2009. And what that means is that from our perspective, they can be enemies. They can even be villains. it has been the case. We've had very similar goals, fighting away the various baddies who have also wanted to come and take Azeroth. But then, in Midnight, what we see is the true threat of the Void Devourer becoming real. Basically, xal'atath has become the power that Sargeras feared, a void entity powerful enough to consume reality. And if there's a few dots unconnected there for you, basically in the very, very, very deep lore, right? Sargeras sees that the void is kind of consuming these planets, and he essentially turns into the biggest of black pill doomers. He just is kind of like, okay, the void does appear to be completely invincible. It's going to consume and twist all life in the universe. Ergo, I'll just go and destroy all life in the universe. That way, the void won't be able to do anything. It's a bit of an insane plan, but you gotta remember, he just spent like hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of years constantly fighting an endless torrent of demons. I think it's fair to say he actually just got a bit depressed. Anyway, that big fear of the void is why he started the Legion, and xal'atath is now the embodiment of that fear, especially as she gets closer and closer to Azeroth. So now, his big worry is happening. And in The Last Titan, we actually know two things that will happen. First, we know from Iridikron, one of the major characters of the Dragonflight expansion, and I would say a genuinely well-drawn villain that feels damn menacing. Well, from him we know that the Titans will return to take what they think is theirs, Azeroth. But we also know from Chris Metzen, who is a guy, he's not a thing in World of Warcraft, and at BlizzCon he said, we're going to get a resolution to the sword stuck in xal'atath. That sword is Sargeras' sword. So, put the Titans turning maybe a little villainous, or at least some of the Titans. I don't think they'll just turn into simple enemies. I think they'll probably have some sort of internal divide. But take them being a problem, the true threat of the Void, and the sword sitting there, I think it's rather clear Sargeras must return to the setting. What then? I mean, with the Titans becoming antagonists, are people wondering if Sargeras is going to have a change of heart? An Illidan-style redemption arc? What if he even becomes a good guy? Wouldn't that be wild? Yeah, it would. I really don't think they'll do that. Though it is a pervasive thought throughout the community. But it is, I would say, an assumption. Based on everything we know about Sargeras, he may just come back just as committed to destroying reality as he was the last time we saw him. And we also know that at the end of Midnight, we will lose. Now, there may be a few steps of logic there that you may not know if you've not been as degenerately following the lore as me and the team have. Basically, in Dragonflight, Iridikron cuts a deal with xal'atath. He knows what xal'atath wants to go and do, and he's essentially counting on xal'atath winning, because her winning is what's going to force the Titans to come back to Azeroth. That's what he wants, because he wants to get personal vengeance on them. So, Midnight not going in our favor is baked into his plan. I'm sure it won't play out that simply, but I think you understand that we're probably going to lose. We don't know who we'll lose to. Probably xal'atath. That'll probably lead to a confrontation with the Titans, Sargeras, and a fully empowered Void Devourer or something, which all seems huge in scale. And when we're talking huge and we're going big, literally these planet-sized titanic beings, well, if Sargeras hasn't changed and he's coming back, he's probably going to want an army. And if that's the case, then he has 100,000 Legion worlds to call on. I think the difference will be that not all will join him. And maybe the Draenei of Nashabur and the demons that they know are an example of some demons who won't join them. And if you don't know what any of that means, trust me, it's really cool, and you'll learn about it in this video next.